Welcome to the Bagel Buzz, a weekly interview series about the most interesting buzz in the bagel world. I'm your host, Sam Silverman, and I'm joined by my co-host, Alex Rosner, COO of Bagel Boss, plus tonight's very special guest, Mike Varley, the man behind the project Everything is Everything, in which he ate and ranked over 200 bagels from shops all over New York City. Now, I'm going to wait for him and our co-hosts and everyone else to get up here before diving right in, but we are about to get started. Now I see Jamie is here right away, and Jamie, question for you. You know Mike? Let's see if you can, I think there's a little bit of a delay, but let's see if we can type it in the chat. And let's get Mike up here. Hi, Jamie. That's wild. What a small world. What a small, small world. Okay, Mike, you did successfully request to come up. And are you there?
Hello.
Hello, hello. There he is.
How's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. And Alex is here as well.
Yes, sir.
How's it going?
How are you?
Good. Well,
Good.
let me introduce Mike. So Mike Varley is the man behind the project Everything is Everything, in which
That's right.
you ate and ranked bagels from over 200 bagel shops across New York City.
Yeah, that's right. 5 boroughs, over 200 stores, and counting at this point, because a lot of people with a lot of opinions, and I got to respect those opinions.
We knew it wasn't going to stop there.
No.
So another interesting fact about this project is that, I don't want to gloss over this, you walked 5 marathons a week to travel New York City. And that's kind of like where the project started. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. So we walked 7,000 miles, 5 marathons a week, 1 calendar year, 131 miles a week. And yeah, the impetus for the project was primarily that we had set out to be in every single neighborhood in New York City. So pretty early on, I recognized, I was going to get hungry. So maybe this would be a good thing to do. And really, the only time that anybody should undertake this is if they're walking 26.2 miles a day, because 3 bagels a week is too much.
I was going to say, it kind of works hand in hand because you get to eat bagels and then walk it right off.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so we did 150 in that calendar year, right? And then I put those on a map and felt that it was soft. There were spots that didn't really get the proper coverage. So then I did another 55 in the month of September, and that is too much. That was actually harder in some ways than walking a marathon a day. Eating 6 everything bagels with scallion cream cheese will ruin a person in one day. It's not good.
I don't know. I've done it. It's like, it's not the worst. It's not the best. You definitely don't feel great, but you can.
Yeah.
Well, everyone wants to know, like right off the bat, what was your favorite bagel? Which was the best that you had in the city? And you don't have to say Bagel Boss because Alex is on here. Okay, we want the objective.
I don't even have you tried Bagel Boss yet?
I have. Bagel Boss is fantastic. I have a good story before the #1 store. I'll tell you about Bagel Boss. So there's a whole component to this project that's NFT based, which we can get to if people want to talk about it. And it's all a random draw what they get. And the person that got the Bagel Boss location that's on the map, I believe it's Stuytown, I think, maybe. Yeah. They had moved to the New York area, and the first bagel they had ever had in New York was the one out on Long Island, the Bagel Boss out on Long Island. And they just so happened, of all the NFT bagels they could have gotten, they got the Bagel Boss one. So it was like this cool synergy. But yeah.
Worlds colliding right there.
That's right, yeah. So yeah, I regard Bagel Boss very highly, but I know there's a bunch of locations. You should probably tell me which one is like the one you want me to see, and maybe you'll go back in a second go.
I would say that probably either the ones in Long Island are predominantly like I would say like the flagship stores because they have been around for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know how far east you go, but like the original one in Hicksville produces probably the best bagel.
That was the one that he had gone through first.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So
will you walk that far, Mike? What's the difference?
Will I? I could. Will I now? I don't know. I don't know if I will or not. But yeah,
Maybe one day just take a car ride, make it easy on yourself, man.
Yeah. I grew up on Long Island, so I mean, I know that the Long Island bagel culture is robust and real. There's no doubt about it.
Where in Long Island are you from?
Huntington. So Super Bagel was the one that was huge for us there.
Gotcha.
And then
I grew up in like Syosset, Woodbury, so I actually lived right on the border between Huntington and Woodbury.
Totally. What's the store around there that you were growing up with?
I mean, so obviously, like I went to the one in the Bagel Boss in Hicksville because it was kind of just like maybe like a 10-minute ride, but we also have one in East Northport. Then, like there's some good spots like Bagel Masters. They're a good spot there in Syosset. And then you have like Gabby's, which was all right, kind of an ex Bagel Boss kind of disciple, if you will. So I'm not the biggest fan of Gabby's, but I'm not going to speak poorly on another bagel shop.
I hear you.
We try not to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But
so getting back to your question,
yes,
I want to answer your question. Yeah, the number one store is PNC Bagels or Hot Bagels in Middle Village, Queens. With the caveat, everything I'm saying here, I say it on the website. Number one bagels, it's a hugely subjective thing. This is not like reviewing the best Bluetooth speaker or the best SUV of 2022. This is a very emotional thing. It's New York comfort food. And so like the number one thing for me, I didn't actually have any personal connection to it going in. However, my family is originally from Middle Village where this location is. And like both my mom and my dad, they grew up a few blocks away from there. My brother lived in the house where they grew up for a little bit. My dad, he passed away. He's buried across the street. And so like there was this whole component to that review that in addition to it being a phenomenal bagel, make no mistake, you'll have a good time when you go there. Like it kind of like brought this almost like ancestral quality to the whole experience where I was thinking like, wow, so many generations have been here that I'm attached to. Maybe one day in the future, like I'll go with my like nephews and nieces to see my dad's grave or something. And it like kind of transcended the actual bagel experience that was happening into something more. And that's kind of part of what informed the whole project about that subjective experience. The idea that, it's the bagels that you grew up eating. It's the bagels that were near the first apartment in New York City that you had, so on and so forth, that really, once you get above a 4 or higher on a New York City bagel, like it's probably possible that it's the best bagel for you.
No, of course. That makes total sense. And I mean, kind of like, which is like crazy to think about, and like you could obviously speak more to it, is like a bagel and like in New York, like if you're out of state, like like New York bagels, and yet like when you go to all these different shops from different neighborhoods or even in the same neighborhoods, there is such a difference between the bagels. So like what you find was like the most like eye-popping like difference from like store to store? Where is it like, was it like the type of store? Was it like more like the hole in the wall kind of stores, or like the kind of underrated ones kind of had the best product? Was it the stores that didn't really offer much more than just bagels and kind of honed in on that bagel type of thing? Or like what really jumped off the page to you that was like, wow, like there's so many differences?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll answer one short in terms of like regionally or area wise. One thing that I noticed, Staten Island has huge bagels. Something about it, uniformly, they are monster bagels. It's almost as though whoever the first bagel store was in Staten Island, every other store went there and then decided this is what it's going to be. So that was kind of cool and interesting to see that. And then as far as like what makes the best bagel, or what are some like telltale signs about stores producing the best bagels, it can vary. I mean, I ended up reviewing the store, the bagel, and the cream cheese because I all think they play a role. And to tackle the store one, that really sets the table for the experience. I mean, starting, of course, with, does it smell like bagels when you walk in? That's always like, oh, well, we know it's made on site for one, so that's good. But also, like, I'm already getting this experience, And then you can go, in the way that I charted it out, it was like either classic or contemporary, right? And there are some really strong contemporary establishments that might offer a variety of services that did very well in the rankings, but those are almost like classic in training, you know? Like you can project those out 20 or 30 years that will be classic in the future if they keep up with what it's going on. The real hole in the wall spots, or the spots that like have really unique like ways that they do business, really contribute to the experience for me. So for instance, I've been doing some second passes, as I mentioned, because there are a lot of passionate people out there. And somebody brought up a place called Bagel Shop, which I did not know of. It's on
Upper East
90.
Side, right?
What's that? Somewhere up there, like in Yorkton.
Yeah.
Upper East Side. Their store has a PA system in order, so like they, you know, like the order flow, you know, is a big thing in bagel shops. Sometimes that can ruin the whole experience. You know, you're just like waiting around. They don't have a ticket. They're not calling your number. You're like, what the hell's going on here? From a block away, you can hear them being like, number 392, Steve. And it's just like, it like immediately just filled me with joy, you know, to be like, and not only was it like quirky, but like it worked. And the owner was behind the counter, and like I'm taking notes, like just like, you know, kind of experiencing the whole thing. And then I go up to him at the end and I was like, hey, I really love your shop. I love the PA system. I'm doing this thing on bagels. He's like, oh, that's so cool. You know, for whatever reason, we never end up on any of these lists. And I was like, I don't know. I can't say why, definitively why it wasn't on my radar when I was going through. It might be because it has a super generic name and like it literally didn't show up on like any of the things. But this is one instance where I'm really glad people are telling me that I've really missed some gems, because I enjoy this. It's not, you know, like it's a little bit more labor obviously to like keep up with this, but it's so much fun.
Yeah, but I think you bring up a great point, because like obviously like at the core of it, it's like how good is the bagel. But at the end of the day, like it's the whole experience. And like you said, if you're in a store where it's like chaotic and like you're just like looking around and like you like have no idea if like your order's even being made or anything like that, it could ruin everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like there shouldn't be like, obviously the wait time like can alter depending on like how busy the store is, but like there's generally like a 2 to 4 minute window where like you're more or less expecting your bagel. And then like once it goes like into like the 6, 7, 10 minutes, you're like, all right, like now you're mentally, you're just like, all right, like now I'm a little pissed off, and that could affect everything.
100%. I agree with you so much. And if you look up the worst store that I reviewed, I won't say its name, but like if you go to this site and look up the worst store, that is the principal complaint I had about the place. Like it was just like there was a weird deli case shelf like dividing everything, but nobody knew where to stand. I was waiting for 15 minutes. I was literally leaving the store, and the guy was like, hey, what do you want? I'm like, I want a bagel. I'm like, what do you mean, what do I want? And then like it was done in like 60 seconds after that. Like, so order flow plays a huge role in your psyche. And like when it's done well, like the flip side of that is like there is nothing sweeter than a bagel in your hand in less than 60 seconds. Yeah. Like if you can be like, I want an everything with scallion, the same person runs, or not even runs, just like they're so good at their job. They like have it all together. It's wrapped up. You're barely exchanging words. It's like, and you're out the door. Like it's, in that respect, it is one of the New York City things about bagel. Like it's fast. You can make it happen any time of the day. And yeah, I mean, it's not a prerequisite for a great shop, but it feels real good when that happens.
No, of course. Absolutely.
So one thing that's kind of funny is you didn't set out to try the top 200 bagel shops in New York City. You set out on this walking project, and you went to a bunch of shops that, you know, happened to be convenient for the walks that you went on. But when this list came out, I mean, the reaction from everybody was, oh, how did you miss this place? How did you miss that place? So what shop, you know, because they assumed that you were trying to rank the top 200. What shops would you say elicited like the most response, and which ones have you gone back to visit after your list came out?
So far, I've gone to 6 places since the list has come out. I probably have a list of another 12 to 14 so far That doesn't mean I'll go to all of them. I've just been compiling them so far because, you know, some of them have more merit than others, either in the amount of people that are reaching out or just like they want me to review their specific chain that they like. When it's like, well, I've already reviewed your chain 3 times. Like, I don't know if I really need to do that again. I know you think your store is like unique relative to the other ones, but I can tell you, like, if they're a chain like that, they have an idea of what they want the store to look like, what they want the bagel to be, and that's great. Like, that's the way it should be. But like, it's not going to fluctuate more than a 1/4 point or a 1/2 point in one direction or the other. Like, it's not. So I consider that lower priority. Doesn't mean I won't get to them. The number 1 store that I felt I needed to identify immediately was Bagel Hole in Park Slope. And I went there first, and people were legitimately correct. That store is awesome. I'm sad that I didn't get there initially, but I'm mostly sad because then I wouldn't have gotten yelled at. You know, like, it's fine. Like, it's fine. It's, you know, the store was incredible. I have like 15 stores of note, bagels of note, and cream cheeses of note. And I gave there are like 3 stores that have 2 of those awards. And that is now one of them. I gave it both a bagel of note and a store of note. It's store plate is like classic hole in the wall situation, you know, bagel hole, with like, you know, the yellow tile ceilings and like what I call like salt in the walls, kind of like steakhouse sawdust on the floor. You know, like it has that real like baked in feel. It's got signage that's like, you know, we now have jalapeno cream cheese. It's like clearly from like 1998, you know, like just like it takes like both no effort and a tremendous amount of sustained effort to get that type of like aesthetic, you know? And all the staff there, they were like super pros, like just doing their job like silently, but like effectively. And yeah, so that was great. And then the bagel itself was, you know, as smaller, which is kind of uncommon in New York. I mean, by and large, I'd say 2/3 of the bagel trends on the bigger side. And it had 2-sided toppings, but it was dense on the bottom and light on the top. And I find that when there's an ability for the lightness to come through, it allows you to access the base bagel more and like get a sense of like what's going on there. So yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
Nice. I'm glad you circled back to them. They're definitely high up on the list.
Yeah, and anybody that's watching here that likes Bagel Hole, I would encourage you to go on to Google and bump up their review score. Because I was trying to think of like why I missed it, and I think it may have been because when I was doing the sweep of Park Slope, which already has a ton of bagel stores, so like I had already covered the neighborhood quite well. The score for Bagel Hole was like a 4.2, and then there were other stores in the area that were like a 4.6 or a 4.7 that are definitely not as good of a store. So if you like Bagel Hole, go rep them on Google, because I'm not the only bagel resource that exists.
Yeah, no, and to that point, like, it's tough with like basing where you're going off of reviews, because like you just said, it is so subjective and so like person to person, and like 4.2 is like nothing to like seize at. That's like a good score. And yet, like you said, there are stores with better scores that just like aren't better. So it's definitely tough. But and I know you said you're not gonna say which store was the worst, but what was the lowest score in terms of like just straight out bagel you gave?
So the worst bagel, or yeah, so I think I had like a 1.75 bagel or something like that. I mean, I'll tell you, I think the worst bagel was Pizza and Bagels on 3rd in Gowanus. There you go. Yeah. But maybe it was Dunkin'. Is that truly the worst?
There's also a Dunkin'.
Oh, they tied.
Like you had to know going to Dunkin' that was going to be the worst one.
No, I mean, look, the reason I went to Dunkin' was because there are, as I'm sure you know, there are large swaths of New York City that surprisingly don't have bagel stores at all. Like all of Southeast Queens doesn't have bagel stores really. They have delis where you can get bagels, but they don't have it. And then similarly, like Southern Bronx doesn't have a lot. There are chunks of Brooklyn that don't have it. So, you know, it felt like I needed to at least review it one time. And yeah, it was awful. I mean, I say in the review, like just don't get a bagel. Like don't, like if you just don't, like, because bagels are, there's it's like it's
that there's places in the country that's like their only option for bagels.
I literally say it in the review. I really do feel sad for people that's all they have. And like, just don't get a bagel, because it's not a bagel. And like, a bagel's like not particularly good for you, and it's comfort food. So like, dude, get something else. It's just not, even get something else from Dunkin' Donuts. Get a donut. Just don't get a bagel.
We're pro bagel consumption across the board, but
yes,
I do agree.
Look, no more than myself.
Yeah, clearly. So you got quite a reaction, I would say, from the bagel community. You might have actually discovered that a bagel community exists. It sounds like you had quite a lot of feedback about your list, but were you surprised by the reaction that you've received?
I am receiving, I would say, yes, ultimately. I mean, it's one of those things where like I've done a lot of different creative things in my life, gone through various different types of creative mediums. I've made films, I've made music, I've written things, I've worked in video games. We did the 7,000 Mile Walking Project. And most of the stuff I've done that's by myself, I haven't really aimed for like a mass appeal. Typically they're kind of like experimental things, and they have been met with pretty much experimental level of reception. But this is the first time that I've really kind of like purposely aimed for something, thinking, this might have a broad appeal. And so on the one hand, like this is a potential outcome that could have existed, but on the other hand, like I've never gone through anything like this before. So yeah, I am surprised.
I guess, so you did kind of think going in, you're like, okay, this is the type of thing that like might get people's attention.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's why I kind of led with it as the first thing that I wanted to do post-walk. Like, we have a lot of photos, a lot of video that I want to take and turn into things that people can take in and consume, so they can learn more about our project and about New York City. But yeah, I mean, I had an inkling, but I've never experienced, I'm getting interviewed two times a day, 3 times a day. There's like things that are like in the pipe constantly, that I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but like I've never had people reach out to me. It's always like I'm reaching out, and like maybe occasionally one thing or two things happen,
That's incredible.
I think that you're learning in something that Sam learned, and as I like followed Sam's journey in the bagel world, that people get really hyped up about anything that's related to bagels. They get really offended. People have a lot to say, and then you think about it, you're like, it makes total sense. Like, we're in New York, New Yorkers have a lot to say about anything, and then all of a sudden you're gonna bring up like their neighborhood bagel spot. Like, people are gonna have words to say.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I welcome it. It's like, there are some times where it's like, man, this is kind of rough, but like ultimately, like, yeah, I mean, this is what it's got to be. This is New York. What are you going to say?
But also, I think that it's kind of just like refreshing to know that like you didn't go in with like any mindset of like trying to like piss anyone off or like have any like favoritism or anything like that. It's completely unbiased. Like you said, like it is subjective. So like, don't get like mad at me for the score I put. Just kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just something really cool to look at, and it's something that, I mean, Sam, like I think that as you have gone through your kind of bagel exploration throughout the city, like you didn't think that anyone was kind of, I wouldn't say one-upping you, but like taking it to like the next level. And I don't mean that in terms of like the stuff that you're putting out, like content-wise. I meant the next level in terms of the amount of stores you're going to. Like, it's just crazy to see. Like, when I saw that at first, I'm just like, I thought it was like a glitch or something, like how many dots there were. And then like, as I actually looked, I'm like, no, like this guy's actually eaten like 200 bagels.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy to do. Like, it's not unreasonable for you to think it's crazy. Like, this shouldn't happen. It only happened because I was doing another thing that was also crazy. And I like saw like, maybe I could cross the streams on crazy and, you know, do this thing, because otherwise, like, just let alone like who goes to Staten Island, you know, like, and I like,
that itself is insane.
yeah, exactly. And I really love Staten Island after going there now. But like even the people in Staten Island are like, don't come to Staten Island, like stay off our island, you know? So yeah, I mean, it was great. But I mean, I love what you guys are doing here too. Like, I think it's phenomenal, and I'm really excited to see like what's happening with Bagel Fest and the blog. Like it's all fantastic stuff.
Yeah, and we're glad to have you in the fold, like a new bagel connoisseur who's done, I think, like, I mean, I've definitely had this. I was going to say, I think everyone's wanted to do what you've done. Maybe not everybody. Like, I know I definitely have. Alex probably has. There are a lot of people who have. But, like, to actually go out and follow through on that is just mind-blowing. Like, it really is
But
pretty incredible.
I think that you said it right, that the only way to do this is if you are walking the amount that you're walking. Because if you're just going around eating, like Sam, I know you said you've probably had like 6 or 7 bagels in a day, but that's got to be like a one-off. Like, there's no way you can like consistently be doing that and riding your bagel around and thinking that you're gonna survive out there.
Yeah. I mean, I just did 4 on Saturday, and it was like I was out of practice. I was out of bagel shape.
Are you eating?
But, like,
are you eating the full bagel?
Yeah. It's you know, when I did the 55 in the 1 month, at first I thought I was just going to eat the half, but it sounds crazy, but like a half goes by so quickly, and I don't feel like I've had enough information about the bagel. Like, I need to keep going just to understand it a little bit more. So I had those 4, and then like, I mean, I had heartburn. I felt awful. Like, I really, like, it was just like really puts you out, you know, eating 4 bagels in a day for like the whole like 12 hours after that, you know? So I need to, I'm basically going to try and do like moving forward, like 1 or 2 a day. Now that I got like, I feel like the 6 I got were like kind of the more urgent ones. And now I can go a little bit slower. So.
Nice. Not totally related to bagels, but how many pairs of shoes did you go through for this project?
13.
Oh my God.
I would go, they recommend like 500 miles between shoes. And so I stretched a little bit further and went like 600. But I didn't want to take any chances. You could probably go even further, but like, you know, the one thing that could derail everything is screwing up your feet. So like, I didn't want to take any chances with that. And so I bought them in bulk. Like, there's a place called Joe's New Balance Outlet, and they had the shoe that like worked for me. And I just bought 13 pairs, and I just had them in my house, and I would swap them out.
Did you tell them that they were all for you?
No, I didn't tell them that. No.
Did you battle any injuries along the way? Like, did you go out when it was raining, storming, snowing out?
We went out in the blizzard. That was one of the more memorable days. If you recall, in 2020, we had the big snow day. We went out in all weather. I don't think there was a day that we missed because of weather. There wasn't a day that we missed insofar as every week we walked 5 days a week. However, there were some weekends where we would allot ourselves a 3-day weekend or a 4-day weekend by shifting the walking. And then we basically suffer on the front end or the back end, depending on, you know, where we'd only have 1 day of off time. And we quickly learned that like putting together a 4-day weekend is not worth it. It just screws up with all your routines. Because this is all about, it's all routine, you know, like just you get up, you walk for 9-10 hours a day, you come back home and you do it again. And so to kind of give yourself more time ends up actually biting you in the ass in the long run, because then your routines get screwed up and it becomes more of a struggle to get back in that space.
Maybe I missed in the beginning, or so like you said, you were doing something else and then you kind of figured, let's throw the bagels into it. What was the original plan, or what was the original thing that you were doing that you kind of picked up the bagel thing as you were moving along here?
Yeah, I mean, the original project was what we had described, the 7,000 miles, 5 marathons a week. How we got to that point was that my wife and I, for 3 years in a row, we took these vacation walks. And we went from San Diego to Los Angeles the first time. We went the length of Vermont the second time. And then we went from the Pacific Ocean to Olympia, Washington the third time. And the third time we did that, I had, it's been 3 years now, and we've been like learning how painful it is to walk a long distance, learning mentally like what it takes to do that sort of thing, and getting better each time. And you can imagine if somebody that wants to review 200 bagels has a skewed sense of ambition. So I was immediately like, I want to walk all of New York City. I want to do all the neighborhoods. And I think we can walk a marathon a day because I know we've done it before on these walks. And she predictably was like, that's crazy. I don't want to do that. And but I fortunately, she saw the passion in what I was doing. And also like she was able to like rock it a little bit more. And she ultimately came to it on her terms, which she did something that in a way is like crazier, which she walked 3 days a week and then ran a business the rest of the time. So she has a dye studio where she dyes textiles and has like a staff of like 10 people. And she was running the business the other 2 days a week that I was still walking. So like it's bonkers in its own way, but it kind of gave her like the balance for her sake of like, this is the degree to which I want to engage it while still retaining like the things that are important to me.
I would have to assume that she partaked in some of the bagel eating, but not all of it.
It's a great question. She has celiac disease, so she is gluten-free. She did partake in some of them, and in fact, the sixth best bagel in the city, according to the subjective rankings, is Modern Bread and Bagel on the Upper West Side, which, another one of the controversies because it's gluten-free, and people can't conceive of a gluten-free bagel being among the peers with all the other regular bagels in the city. But I'll tell you, it's a damn fine bagel. The toppings are so on point. The cream cheese is like super smooth, very dairy, like latent, like just like you can't even tell it came from a cow. And the chunks of scallion are like so texture, like complementary to the bagel. And the store itself is like it's just a contemporary, beautifully manicured, and all the pastries there, everything there is gluten-free, and like you don't feel like anything is lacking. And I think part of what informed the experience as being positive too is, speaking again to the nature of bagel, eating so many of them, you can tell there's a heaviness to bagels sometimes that just doesn't exist in a gluten-free bagel, which feels pretty good after you've gone through this other experience.
We're actually talking to Orly, who is the baker behind Modern Bread and Bagel, in a couple weeks on this show. So, Alex, we'll probably have to take a field trip up there to try her bagels before we hop on.
Orly, that name sounds so familiar. Like if it's the same woman, because I know she was doing gluten-free, her name was Orly. She came to our store in Hewlett about 4 or 5 years ago to do like test batch in our kitchen. It could be the same woman.
Probably.
Sweet, that's great.
Yeah.
It also like took one of the most beautiful photos of all the photos I took of all the bagels. If you go to the individual review page.
So speaking of the photos, you've turned all of these photos into NFTs. Is that correct?
I did, yeah. So the NFT side of things was something that we planned the project for walking. I had no conception of what an NFT was. I didn't have any intention of doing anything like that. But I got roped into a separate pixel art NFT project in May of 2021, right as the project was nearing its climax. And basically, we rolled off the walking project, and then just I rolled into this NFT ecosystem. And as an artist that has done all these different things, as I mentioned earlier, the music, the movies, the mixed media, etc. It really spoke to me as a medium because NFTs contain all of those things. So I really don't anticipate that I don't think bagels are my stopping point. Like, I love bagels. I will kind of keep it as part of my artistic profile moving forward. But like, we might do another walking project. We might pivot back to movies. Maybe I'll go back into video games. I don't really know. But ultimately, this NFT container can handle pretty much anything that I'm going to do moving forward. And it gives an opportunity to have a through line for everything I'm doing. So that's one of the really captivating points for NFTs for me. And then as far as how I employed it in this project, what I'm looking to kind of have as a dialogue with the NFTs is what exactly do reviews look like in the future, in the next few years, you know? So we were just talking about Google, you know, and like how that one store had a 4.2 or something. And Google, you know, aggregates all those reviews from people that are providing that labor for basically nothing. You know, I mean, there are a few people who are industrious enough. I mean, basically, I'm talking like us, like a very select few amount of people that could potentially go to a bunch of stores, you know, chalk up the reviews, get a little number next to their name saying how many they've reviewed, and then use that to maybe talk to a publication and be like, hey, look, I'm a professional or I'm an expert in this area. Why don't you hire me to do something? So like that's a tremendous amount of effort for like a very small potential of payoff. With this NFT side of things, it's possible that maybe people could do something like what I'm doing now, where they review all the ramen in New York City or all the sushi in San Francisco or something, and create a little subjective universe of what that is, and then offer those reviews as NFTs and in a way fund their work at a level that they never would have had an option to previously. So yeah, I don't know if what I'm doing is kind of the final version. In fact, I know it's not. It's like definitely too artistic slanted to be what it is. But like maybe in the future, either Yelp or Yelp's, you know, next generation, whatever that is, has it set up so that people can review it and then make an NFT of it and potentially recoup some of their labor and derive some value in that way.
That's a really fascinating paradigm. Like I would love to see that happen. And yeah, hopefully Web 3.0 or whatever they're calling it includes some version of kind of community-based reviews where the reviewers are getting compensated for all the hard work that they're doing, going around and, you know, sharing their knowledge and expertise with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that the way that the past 20 years have gone in terms of like the internet and web space, you know, you think about the .com era and like there were all these companies, right, that were providing tremendous value to us, the users. And they were doing this all on spec, you know, like in the hopes that like the stock markets would pick up their companies and they would be able to basically backfill all of the money that they put in to trying to make something take off, right? So that happened for a number of years. And then at a certain point, those companies started trying to figure out how to monetize what they were doing. And they fell on the idea of our data, which, and I don't even say that in a negative way, just like the idea like I give a review, that is a version of data. Or, you know, they track what our search habits are, and then they provide ads to us. And so that gradually, it came from like all of these services were being provided to us and the company wasn't getting anything. And then it started evening out. And now we're at where we are right now, where we are providing a tremendous amount of value to these companies, but not really getting a ton of value in return. And what I think could potentially happen with the NFT side of things, not just for bagels, but for everything, is that it can start to change the conversation and really bring value back to the users in the internet space.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you this, definitely a little different conversation than we are used to, and not in a bad way at all. I'm kind of blown a little bit, you know, how you taking this small of a project and it's just like kind of just like fell into your lap in terms of pairing up with your walking one, and now all of a sudden like it's kind of just spiraling into this way bigger thing, and it's pretty great to see.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed every minute of it, and like it's been interesting. So like the initial days of the project where it launched, basically all the people that were in the community of the NFT space that I was involved in, they bought up a bunch of bagels. And so that like there was like I would say like 80 or so was bought up in the first couple of days, and then we're at half right now. So the last 20 or so has been this really interesting thing where it's people that are interested in the project and have been kind of curious about what the NFT space is, and kind of me having a lot of one-to-one conversations about like what this could be. And that's been really fun and interesting to like kind of see it unfold in that way, where people are curious and have never known how to engage, and like I get the opportunity to talk to them about it.
Well, include me in that boat, because I've been
I was gonna
NFT
say,
curious.
let's
I've never
let's
bought
get
an
on a call
NFT
right
before, but I think this is going to be my first purchase. So I didn't know that they were randomly assigned. I'm going to be so pissed if I get a Dunkin' Donuts out of this. This better be, I better get one of my favorites. But
For sure.
This will be really fun. So I have kind of two final questions.
Yep.
One being, like, what was the most surprising thing you learned about bagels throughout this journey?
Ugh, most surprising thing. Well, I can't say that people are passionate, because I knew people were passionate.
Right.
Boy, surprising. I guess it was kind of more an internal thing. I guess I could intellectually understand this, but it took going through the whole project to realize that there actually is a pretty wide variety of what a bagel can be, and everything bagel can be. Like the fact that there are doughy bagels and chewy bagels, and like that I have an understanding of what that distinction is, and that there are like toasty bagels without being toasted, and like the crunch of a bagel, and then like how the amount of toppings can influence like what the experience is like, and then how the scallion cream cheese can be done so many different ways. Like that was something that I guess was surprising, and only I could have understood truly by forcing myself to sit down and write about each and every one of them. Because if you don't force yourself to do that, you're just like, yeah, it's a good bagel. I don't know why, it's a good bagel. Or you're like, you're just like, oh, it's crunchy. Or you just like, you have a very like simple idea. And I mean, I'm sure you guys are, being in the space as well, you understand that too. But like I hadn't really dove in fully. And once I did, that was something that was pleasantly surprising.
I think that's a great point to make. And I think that ties into my philosophy for why bagels of all foods hit a chord with people, is because there are truly infinite varieties and variations, and every single person can find the one that's right for them. Like the perfect bagel with the exact right toppings and the tastiest cream cheese for that. Like it's something that's so highly personalized from like a food perspective that I just think is really, really difficult to get with anything else. And so, yeah, hearing you talk about all this variety is like inspiring in a way of like, there's other bagels, like there's more out, like it can get better. You think that it's already the best, but it can get better than that.
Well, like to like what you said, like Sam, it's like, so like I would just think like what other kind of food has so many different like variations, and like pizza, right? But again, that's not like specific to a person. Like when you walk into a bagel shop, sometimes like you'll get the people that will pick out the exact type of bagel they want out of the everything bin, how much cream cheese they want, how toasted they want it. So like it can be personalized literally down to the person, which is so cool.
Yeah.
And kind of annoying.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And kind of annoying as someone that works behind the counter, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Totally. Yeah.
So Alex, I don't know if you had any other questions, but
No.
Yeah.
I'm just chiming in left and right.
Yeah. So you mentioned, bagels are not going to be your ending point.
I don't think so.
What other projects do you have in the works? If you want to share, what else you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be a little secretive. I don't know, that's the wrong word. I have what I would like to do is for the next 3 or 4, I'm going to say this wrong. I have 3 or 4 more NFT drops based on the walk that I want to do. And I'm kind of right now keeping it a little vague because I want people to be surprised as they come along. But basically, there were not just bagel reviews that I collected while I was walking around the streets of New York. As you can imagine, you spend enough time on the city streets, you start recognizing patterns. You start seeing things again and again. And so my wife and I just started, recognizing that there was a lot of interesting stuff that was going on. And we saw it enough that we could start making collections of these types of things that we've seen. So it's mostly video and photo documentation of these things that we're going to be putting into collections and inviting people to engage, through the NFT side of things. So that'll kind of be the thrust when I can breathe from all of these interview requests, because it's actually challenging to work on stuff when I basically have to keep my schedule open to do an interview in the middle of the day, and then it's the start of the day I'm amping up to do it, and then the end of the day I'm exhausted from doing it, so I'm sure this will slow down at some point, and then I'll be able to kind of tackle that. So it's really like bagels, and not only bagels, but that experience of answering media stuff that I'm prioritizing right now. And then after that, just more stuff about the walk, which the project, I didn't even mention that's called 2020 Total Clarity. That was the name of the whole walking project, the 7,000 mile trip around the city.
2020 Total Clarity. That's good. Besides this one, what's been the most fun interview you've had so far?
I don't know if this one was fun necessarily, but the one that made me happiest was I was on 1010 Wins, the radio station, and it just made me happy because it's that's snow days, it just reminds me of being a kid and being I turn on the radio and I hear that tinny AM radio voice, and it just feels like the real news, to be on 1010 Wins. Of course, they had it on every hour, and they screwed up the name of the website every time. It's everythingiseverything.nyc. Everythingiseverything.com is a film production company in San Francisco that I now need to reach out to see if we can put something together. But
no, it's funny you said that, because I literally typed something in before, and that's the first thing that came up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in the right spot.
yeah. Everythingiseverything.nyc. But that was cool. And then I mean, this was equally cool. I mean, they've all been great, but we went out to the #1 store, PNC Bagels, Hot Bagels, with the NBC News, the local news. The news anchor from the 5 o'clock news, he reached out to us specifically, it was kind of a passion project for him. And the news crew, the NBC crew, couldn't get in touch with the store because their phone is broken, and it has been broken forever. And it's just kind of adds to the mystique of this store being if you can't contact it, nobody. Yeah. And so he was we're just going to go do a guerrilla. And I was no, let me go talk to them. Because on a whole other angle to this, after I had really experienced that this was a great store, my wife and I got married on the final day of our walking project. And we had the #1 store cater our reception with bagels. So I went in just prior to the interview with NBC and was hey, I don't know if you remember me. My name's Mike. You guys catered my wedding. And they were oh my God, it's you. People have been coming in from everywhere. The Bronx, Jersey, trying to have our bagels. It's incredible. We printed out your review, and they had this boar's head review, a sheath, where you put the thing in, and they taped over the boar's head, and they had printed out a phone screenshot of the review, and they were it's been so tough with the pandemic, we've just been so excited. So it felt super good. It was not intended at all, but to be able to help out a store that was suffering during the pandemic and whatnot, it felt good. And to go in there, they were so thrilled to be able to be a part of it. So that was a special one too, for sure.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So many good things have come out of it that you didn't even expect, and not even for you, but just kind of just deflection off of what you did. So it's great to hear, man. And like I said, this is probably one of the more interesting conversations we've had on our show, and it's pretty mind blowing that Like you said, that it's just like the bagel can be so different yet so similar, and even in New York, let alone the country. And it's just cool. I'm just like going through this list, and it's just like mind blowing of one, how much time you put into actually each review, which is great, and it's just very informative, and it looks like you had fun doing it. So good for you, man.
Hey, I've been having so much fun doing all this, and I mean, this is one of the best, if not the best interview we've done. I mean, it takes 3 bagel guys to put together a fantastic experience.
Exactly.
Love it. Well, Mike Varley, creator of Everything is Everything. If you haven't checked out his website, go to everythingiseverything.nyc. Get that right, .nyc. Check out his reviews. Buy an NFT. I'm going to buy an NFT. And,
Hell yeah.
Let's get a bagel soon.
I want it. Let's do it.
All right.
Thanks, guys, so much. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man. Nice meeting you.
Take care.
Have a good one.
Likewise. Take care.
Bye.